Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and more Birthright here as we keep working our way through the Canasi realms. Today we're taking a look at Innishiere, a very interesting one. It is recommended. It's also an elven domain, right? So there's just so few of those out there, period. So the fact that we get one here in the Canasi expansion is even more so special, right? It's considered chaotic neutral, and there's not much law going on here, right? So if you're looking for just a completely different experience as far as running a realm, this is certainly it, right? But also just adventuring in here is going to be drastically different than so many of the other realms that are nearby. So again, just a totally different experience on all fronts here. So as you can see, it's, like you would expect for a lot of the Elven realms, rather sparsely settled, although the capital there, or the main province, is at a level 5, so that's pretty good, but still, as with most Elven realms, tons of magical potential. So there's a little bit of law, no temples, of course, because the elves don't worship any deities in this setting. Plenty of guild activity, which is the same as the law as far as the controller. And then the sources are split in several different areas, though, so we'll get into that. So, a strong nation of elves holds the forest of Innishiere on the Zangi's west branch, defending their homeland by stealth and ambush. They suffer no intruders to live once they set foot in the shadows of the woods. The ruler of the elves is the fairy king Rinwid, or sorry, Renewed. That's right, all the pronunciations here, right? So Renewed. As elven nature does not embrace an apparatus of government, he controls a law holding only in his court province. His people still follow his orders without hesitation, though, so you don't have any internal conflicts there. No temples, as we said. Renewed's guild holdings represent contact with tree ants, rangers, and other woodland defenders. They provide him no income. These elves care little for business. And then several elf mages loyal to him control the sources or share the sources. The most powerful of these is the king's sister, Princess Niove. I think we're pronouncing that one right. The Forest Knight, Renewed, and again, very powerful character too here, if you were taking him as, again, the actual ruler instead of your own character. Level 13 Ranger, pretty good bloodline. Surprised that's not a little bit higher, though, but also chaotic neutral, right? Possesses a mercurial temperament. Though capable of great compassion and courtesy, he's also cursed with a warrior's temper. He grows enraged at even inadvertent remarks. This tall, powerfully built elf has eyes that flash like fire when he's angry. He tends to behave much more physically and directly than many of his kind. Some of his subjects, whispering, call his behavior almost human, a comment that would send him into a towering rage, again, if he actually heard it. So he inherited rule from his father, Rovan, hopefully pronounced right, a Deismar veteran who died 600 years ago, defending the wood from the Voss. So, other important NPCs here, again, the sister, they're Niove, if we're pronouncing it right again, level 11 wizard, so you have a powerful ally there and family member. Also a solid bloodline, chaotic good, though. Serves as the power behind the throne. She often intervenes to calm her brother when his temper gets the better of him, and she counsels him with patience and compassion. By his own law, any human who sets foot in the forest must be slain, but the sister has persuaded him to bend that rule from time to time. She wields respected powers of sorcery. Her spells often prove the Elven realm's first line of defense against invasion, naturally, and I'm sure, they don't think they really go into the full detail here, but certainly she would have access to all the realm spells that she would need or want, and again, a huge amount of source power there as well. She has perfected a modified version of the Warding realm spell, which confuses intruders by creating trackless paths in the forest borders without affecting any of the native creatures, including the elves. So, pretty powerful defense there. With the help of other elf mages, including Finn, level 4, and a small bloodline there, true neutral, and Eileen, level 5, small bloodline there, very small, tainted at 5, but also neutral. She wards the entire domain this way, so that's where we see the different source holdings there. So, the forest of Innishiere may be the most breathtaking in all of Cerealia. It is home to the great Talevan trees with silver birch-like trunks and leaves of green and gold. Little underbrush grows in the forest, so from a mile or two away, the wood becomes a white-pillared cathedral of warm green light. And then elves have lived in this wood for thousands of years. In fact, Innishiere numbers among the oldest domains in Cerealia itself. Deep in the green hills of the forest's heart hides a strong elven keep of gleaming stone and glass, one of the few remaining elven cities predating mankind's invasion of Cerealia. This city of Aduth Taile is the capital of Innishiere. Now, 3/4 of the realm's inhabitants call it home, although it's not unusual for about half of them to be wandering the forest at any given time. Now, the king's court does include more than 100 elf knights whose steeds have the enchanted power of flight. So, again, pretty wild stuff here for the setting, but that's a hell of a lot of powerful magic there. The king and his knights often patrol the forest borders and the skies above in search of encroaching evil, although they never show themselves outside of Innishiere. The king declared this restriction decades ago on the advice of his sister to avoid strife between the elves and their human neighbors. So there's at least, even if it's not coming necessarily from a place of compassion, but smart enough to realize there's no point in unnecessary conflict, especially if their neighbors are minding their business here. So we can assume that we should have, as far as army units go, right, at least one unit of like elven knights would be fair. Unfortunately, we don't get like a lengthier description for the realm, so up to the player and the DM to really figure out just how much is there in the way of any actual like standing army needed, right? We don't necessarily get into full detail on that, but wouldn't be out of line, I think, to have maybe that one unit, and certainly like one unit of like maybe elf infantry and elf bowmen, just to complement things. But again, players should certainly be able to have some of the resources there. Now, unfortunately, we also don't get provided a starting treasury or regency. So again, something that the DM and the players will just have to come up with. Right now, the fact that there isn't necessarily much in the way of economy, not that there's any needed necessarily, as far as like trade and taxation and stuff go, will maybe hamper that a little bit. But again, that's just something that the players and the DM will have to flesh out, because this is just such an unusual realm, even amongst the elven realms, but really a cool one there. It just really depends on how players would want to take that. Now, if you're adventuring in here, obviously, as humans, that's kind of or non-elves, we should just say, is a no-go in general, unless some extraordinary circumstances were to happen. But even like venturing out is not necessarily permitted. So again, that would have to be something that would develop in a campaign and have some pretty strong reasons for it. But there's plenty of other neighbors nearby that could make that worthwhile. Running the realm again is going to be very interesting. So just internally, right, with all the things we just mentioned, but there's plenty of issues with a lot of the other neighbors in the region, which we've described and will continue to describe. So a lot of potential there, very interesting. I think the last of our actual elven realms, but so we've kind of touched on that with all the different regions now. So let us know what you think in the comments, guys. Have you run a campaign at Innishiere or adventured in there? Hit us up there and make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to see videos like this early, consider supporting us over on Patreon. All the support there helps go into making sure we track down all the old modules for Birthright and also other settings that we're eventually getting to. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.